And if we do it live, there it is. Welcome back for a new season of Bradley Central football here on the Bear Network. Today's coach's interview with Coach Damon Floyd, brought to you by Trophies Unlimited, right there on Mimosa Road. Check them out for all your trophy needs there. Coach Floyd, 19 years. I remember when you were introduced from an assistant and got bumped up there. A lot has changed in 19 years. Is there one particular thing, just looking back in your, I wasn't expecting to ask you this, what's the biggest change that you have seen in high school football in those years? There are a couple of things that
I mean, there's more than one. I think number one, probably the game has changed so much. You know, everybody is so multiple now, and it's all trickled down from NFL to college to high school. And I think the normal person that's not involved with it every day don't understand how sophisticated and how much these kids really have to know on the offense, defensive level, you know, week to week. So it's a very sophisticated game now, and then obviously the social media. We didn't have that 19 years ago.
And you thought about that, yeah.
That's thrown a whole different loop in it. Now you got NILs and obviously the way people transfer now, and so there's a lot different than when I started 19 years ago for sure.
Well, I know there. Just thinking about that. You know, opening game is always exciting. I mean, it's no matter who it is or where it's at. It's especially exciting when it's at home. It's especially exciting when it's on Thursday night.
Yeah.
It's especially exciting when it's on against McMinn County, our oldest rival.
Right.
And also, one win. I know you don't talk about things like this, but in the media we do. And you'll have the new record of most wins by a coach breaking Jimmy Lovell's record. You'll have 125. But what to you is special about opening night? I know you like Thursdays, and this game was scheduled for Friday, but you switched to Thursday. And I think it's exciting. I've already heard people around the campus talking about it all week, you know. So.
Yeah, if you're not excited this time of year, and I say this every year, you know, somebody actually asked me the other day, said, how do you know what to say in these interviews? I was like, well, I've done it for 19 years. Some of the names change, but kind of say the same thing every year. So I'll repeat myself again.
That's okay.
If you're not excited for the very first game of the season, then you don't need to be in it.
Right.
So I think our guys are excited. They've worked extremely hard. We've had good days, bad days of practice, which a lot of people have. And, you know, just to finally get here and tired of practicing against each other. We've had pretty good weather this week, but it's, you know, it's been hot. So just to kick it off, we moved it to Thursday just because, you know, obviously Walker Valley, Cleveland, they're playing on Friday, so we were trying to get as many people here for our game as possible. And, you know, we always want to create a good atmosphere, and it's usually pretty good in Bear Stadium. So Thursday night with no other games locally, there should be a big crowd. And like you mentioned, it's McMinn County. I think it's the longest consecutive rivalry in the state of Tennessee now.
It's second.
Well, I think that whoever else was, Bo's telling me that they didn't play. Maybe COVID year or something, but I could be wrong.
Well,
but
it's an old one.
It's an old one
since 1927.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the longest rivalries in the state of Tennessee, and you know, Bo said it many times, and he's made no secret. They hate Bradley.
He said that in the media day Thursday.
He says it every year, and so that's fine. They hate us, and we're not too fond of them either. I hope our kids feel that way, just for the simple fact of, you know, Cleveland and Walker Valley are two huge rivals. They don't quite understand what McMinn County rival is to some of the older guys.
Right.
And we try to point that out to them this week and put an emphasis on it. But at the end of the day, it's going to come out who executes, who has the least amount of penalties, all the old coaching cliches you get to win a football game. You can't turn the ball over, silly penalties. You got to play good defense, and, you know, those kind of things. So being the first game of the year, both teams are probably going to come out and make some mistakes, and we understand that. So, you know, hopefully we can keep it close in the fourth quarter and find a way to win.
Every interview we do with you, and we've done for several years now, it seems like no matter who we're playing, whichever week it is, what's the key? No turnovers and no penalties at the wrong time. You know, you can overcome some penalties. You know, granted that. Let's talk about. We always our first program of the year like to talk about coaching changes. You've added a couple of guys to your staff this year. Yeah,
Dylan Standiford we brought back, who, you know, in Bradley, Cleveland area, nobody needs to introduce him. He had an unbelievable career. I think he ended up being the all-time hits leader at Lee in baseball, but he was a two-time All-State player for us. When he was a starting quarterback, he had a lot of wins. So to bring him back pretty special. Their family means a lot to us, me personally, and known them for a long time. So for him to come back is awesome. RC Talent's now helping us, who's coached at a couple different places, Silverdale, McMinn Central, but he's a Bradley graduate. He played center for I think with DeJuan Massengale and those guys. So to have RC back, he's helping with the D line, and then obviously my son, which means a lot to me, is he's back with us and helping me with the secondary. So we added 3 new coaches, and they're all former Bears. So we talked about that, and I know there was an article in the paper about it, but we believe that once a Bear, always a Bear, and that's the good thing about not just football, but our school. We obviously take care of our own, and if you're one of us, you're one of us forever. And I'm really proud of the fact that we got a lot of Bradley graduates that played here, and it just means more to them than when if they actually wore the black and gold. What it means, they know what our standards are and what we expect, and so they've been through the program, and like I said, just adds probably a little bit more pride.
I thought Joe Ken had a tremendous article about all the relationships of former Bears, and even the teachers here who went to Bradley and came back to teach here. And his headline was something, if I'm paraphrasing, I think it's right, "A Bear for Life" is more than just a slogan.
Oh yeah.
And we take it very seriously here at Bradley Central. Let's talk about your team captains. I understand the players picked those, and who did come out on top this year?
Let's see, we got 4 team captains. Mason Gorey, who's a 4-year starter for us at corner. He'll play both sides of the ball this year, rarely come off the field. He was voted captain. Tay Sheehy, who will start at safety for us this year, who's a senior. Jacob Gentry, who is a senior, who will start at safety for us. And then Chris Myers, an offensive lineman. He is a junior. So very rarely we have a junior voted. I think he's the 3rd one in the last 19 years to be voted as a captain. But, he is our lone returning starter on offense. We only have one, and that's him. So he is definitely a leader for us on offense.
Well, that leads me up to my next question. We talked about you had 23 seniors, I think, last year that graduated. Some tremendous talent. You've only got 9 this year, but that's the nature of high school. That's the nature of college. Every year the team changes there. They're very inexperienced. Everybody understands that, and they're going to make mistakes. We've talked about this before. They got to grow up fast and learn. Like you mentioned earlier in the interview here, it's going to be mistakes made on both sides. Thursday night probably, and hopefully you don't have more than the other team.
Exactly. I think that'll be a huge factor. Is the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is usually the team that wins. And that not only includes penalties, but turnovers and those kind of things, missed tackles. But yeah, we only have 9. No, we have 10 seniors. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But not big in quantity, but they're good in quality. They've done everything we've asked for. Majority of them been with us for 4 years, and like Jacob Gentry, for example, he knows what it means a lot to him as well, because he's got relatives that's played here before him. Kevin Gentry played here, was a 3-time starter on defensive line for us, one of the toughest kids we've ever had. But so these guys they've stepped up, and they've been leading us since really since November. Once we lost last year. But what happens this year, who knows? I know this: they show up. And I'm talking about our senior class. And we got a lot of young guys who have to play too. We got some freshmen that'll be starting. We got a lot of sophomores that'll be playing, obviously juniors. But the senior class has been leading us the right way. The senior class, I can honestly say, they show up and they do give their best effort every day. And they're really trying hard to get those young guys to understand what varsity football is like. Even though they may not have been starters, they played a lot of minutes. They mostly, like Gentry, I mentioned earlier. I mean, he was unbelievable in special teams last year. Tay Sheehy was unbelievable in special teams. I think them two, it was a competition pretty much every time down the field. Who's going to make the tackle on kickoff?
Gotta love that.
So they played a little bit on Fridays. It's just not quite as much as you'd want coming into a season. But hey, it is what it is. Other teams deal with it. It's no excuse. Our job as coaches is to try to get them ready, and that's what we try to do.
It's going to be a fun year. Let's take a break here for Trophies Unlimited out there on Mimosa Drive, and we'll return. We'll get more into the detail about McMinn County's game coming Thursday night, folks. It's Thursday night, not Friday night. 7 o'clock kickoff as usual. We'll be back in just a moment. Coach, we touched on this earlier. McMinn County, the Cherokees, Cherokees, sometimes we call them, just to be sarcastic or whatever, with them. Bo Cagle been there 18 years, just 1 year less than you have. He is the old school, tough, hard-nosed kind of coach, just like you are. And you can bet when McMinn County comes calling, whether it's up there or down here, it's going to be a head knocker, a slobber knocker, we call it sometimes, where both teams don't like each other. It's well known. And expect nothing less this year. And do you know anything about Bo? I mean, I hear he's changed his offense to be more spread this year than.
Well, last year they were in the wing T,
Yeah.
but and like we've mentioned, there's no love lost between either program. But
Yeah.
we do have a lot of respect for
Right, I
him
understand.
because Bo does a good job. He does it the right way. We know when they come down here, they're going to be well coached, well prepared. They've always got tough, hard-nosed, physical kids, so we know it's going to be a physical football game. And we, with them, we've had a lot of battles throughout the years, and we expect Friday night to be another one. I know they want a little payback from last year, and
Yep.
we understand that, but really last year has nothing to do with this year, So, like I said, we have a lot of respect for them. I don't think there's a whole lot of secrets because we have faced each other quite a few times, and we know what we're in store for. I hope our kids understand how intense it's going to be Thursday night, because it will be a different McMinn County team than you probably see other nights. And Bo has said that this game's very, very important to them. If they've had to win one, they want this one.
Right.
We want this one because it's the one we're playing. So we're focused in, and hopefully we perform well.
Well, we were talking previously. You and I were talking during the preseason discussion. And you said something. I said, who's going to be the favorite? You said, Will Beard and Maryville's supposed to be pretty good. And until somebody knocks Maryville off, you said, wait a minute. We knocked Maryville off last year. First time in, 20 years or so? They'd not won the region?
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be different than them, but talk about the Bears now. What can we expect differently than we saw last year's team or the year before's team on the field, running offense and defense? I'm sure the defense will probably be multiple like always.
Yeah, we're going to base out of a 3-4 on defense. We don't play a whole lot of bigger kids, and our philosophy is kind of, let's take the bigger kids and put them on offensive line. There's not, and every team would tell you this for the most part. Most teams struggle with getting bigger kids out for football now. So we try to put those guys on offensive line, and then we move a lot on defense. So we're going to take a smaller guy and let him kind of stun around and do some things there. They're still reading keys and those kind of things, but it's not just a free fall of everybody going everywhere. But
Right.
It's a good question what we're going to see. I mean, we have something in our mind as coaches what we want it to look
If
like.
it goes right, we'll see this.
And I think that's been our biggest issue. And I think if you ask our players, they understand consistency in practice and scrimmages has been up and down. Sometimes we have looked really good, and then sometimes we have shown our inexperience and our youth. And I hate to use youth as an excuse, and we're not. But the fact of the matter is, there's going to be a lot of freshmen, sophomores playing. But they're varsity football players, so it's no excuse. Like I mentioned, we'd like to be explosive on offense. I don't know if we are. Hopefully we can, get a ground game going and run the football and hopefully set up some play action, because I do feel like we got some playmakers. It's just a matter of them making the play. We can only block so many. They've got to make some people miss. They've got to take it to the house every now and then. Cook's got to make good decisions. The running backs have to hit the holes and break a couple tackles. Offensive line, it went from JV to playing varsity, which is totally different. You're not going to see that. In JV, when somebody lines up in defense, that's what they get for the whole game. Now you're getting a lot of different multiple looks. You're getting a lot of blitzes. The safeties are moving on you, who to throw to. So there's a lot going on. And then defensively, a lot of teams we face are very multiple. For example, they may run 25 different formations. Well, if we don't adjust to those formations correctly, there's a gap open. So the good thing is we go against each other in practice. Our offense is very multiple. Our defense is multiple, so it helps. But until you line up in a game with that kind of tempo on a Friday night, you're going to make some mistakes. Hopefully, the team you see at the end of the year is not the same team you see at the beginning of this year. We've got to improve every game, and I think we will. But then you start talking about injuries and stuff like that happen. And right now we're not full strength. Probably not any secret with social media out there of certain kids on our team are not going to be able to play Thursday night, and it hurts us. The next guy's got to step up.
Well, it's going to happen Thursday night, whether we're ready for it or not. And as you say, the next man up there. Who are the teams you look around our region with? The 3 teams up north, Hardin Valley, 4 teams, Bearden, Maryville, and Farragut, which will be coming to us this year. Who you see up there that looks like the likely power or the favorite?
It's hard to say because, I mean, you hear things, but we don't really see them. You know, like you see local teams around here. Obviously, I know Maryville's Maryville, and they probably had a down year last year. But I expect them to be they're very big up front. You know, I think they got 2 guys that are like 6'7", 300 pounds, 2 D1 guys, and the other guys wasn't small last year. So I know they got a really good running back coming back. They're going to be talented. They're well coached. Bearden's loaded with talent. A bunch of 4-stars on their team. Farragut, obviously Eddie Courtney retired, but his son's taking over, so they're going to be probably pretty much the same. Always tough, hard-nosed, well-coached. Hardin Valley's got a new coach. Don't know anything about them, like what they're running or anything. And then, you know, Cleveland's got a lot of talent, and Coach Tygart in his second year, I'm sure they'll be a little bit more advanced than last year. And so it'll be very competitive, and every Friday night's a dogfight. And, you know, really we're just kind of focused on McMinn at this point and not really looked at any other team.
I see one of these so-called preseason polls from Middle Tennessee I saw, and Bearden and Maryville both in the top 10 there, and so our region is always extremely tough. Last year was a thrilling season, 13-1, went to the semifinals, tied the most wins in the season for the Bears, tremendous players and so forth. This year's schedule, we hadn't even touched on that, should have touched on that earlier in our part of this the show, but same as last year, we just flipped home and home, except we've had one addition, Innovation Academy, replacing Heritage Georgia, because in Georgia they reschedule on the opposite year that Tennessee does, and they reclassified, I guess, is what they did, and we lost that game there. But a great schedule at home with Walker Valley, Tyner, Cleveland, McMinn County, Red Bank, and Farragut. That's a pretty good home schedule right there.
Yeah.
And we expect crowds out here, and we'll be every Friday night after this one opening week, which is Thursday night. But your schedule, it is what it is, and we'll change that up some, I guess, next year, won't we?
Yeah, you know, after this season's over, you'll start contacting other schools, seeing who can play. So hopefully we can keep some of them local schools around and, you know, play them. But it is what it is. We'll have to find games, and you know, with our region schedule, like I've said, it's tough. And then we want to face good competition. We want to have good games, and the people on our schedule this year are good games. Innovation Academy, honestly, we don't know anything about.
Nobody does right now.
It was just the simple fact of we lost Heritage because they had scheduling conflicts this year, and then they had a game, and somebody else told me, and honestly, when I called them, at first they said no, and then they called me back and said, hey, we're going to be able to play. There's another Innovation Academy, I guess, in Arkansas.
Yeah, in Arkansas too, yeah.
So one of my coaches, I told them, hey, we're playing them, and they said, is this the team in Arkansas? And I said, I don't even know. So it is in Tennessee, but we just won the 10th game,
right?
Because our kids deserve play 10 regular season games. So, yeah, that's our schedule.
And we'd had back-to-back open weeks. We hadn't had that game in there.
Yes, and that's one thing we definitely. I don't like open weeks anyway in high school football, but yeah, we definitely didn't want to take 2 weeks off and then have to play another game.
For you folks that scratch your head, where is the Innovation Academy? It's in Robertson County, north of Nashville, around the Kentucky border. It's a road game too, a long road game there. Well, Coach, we always look forward to doing this each and every week. Thanks for all your input and your insight on the game and what's coming up. Best of luck Thursday night. Let's get a win, open the season. Non-region game, but it's always McMinn. It's always fun, and there'll be a huge crowd here, I think, come Thursday night.
Yeah, we're excited. So it's time to kick it off. Talk's over.
Kicks off 7 o'clock. Join us pregame at 5 or 6 o'clock this week. 6 o'clock this week on Thursday. Brought to you by Trophies Unlimited here, and our coaches show is. Until next time, so long for now. God bless, and go Bears.